Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. I'm going to just do a real quick flip through of this collection of Lorenzo Mattotti's New Yorker covers. If you've been watching the channel over the last month or however long, you've seen that I've really become obsessed with Lorenzo Mattotti's work and got a bunch of his stuff, and I'm doing a real deep dive because there's so much to be learned from this artist for where I'm trying to go, with my art next, which is more color, more shape, less line, less black and white. It's just the stuff that I haven't got good at yet is everything that he's a master at. This is just a really, really nice book in terms of learning from the artist. It's not a comic book, not a story, but when I'm obsessing about like someone's process and their decision making and all of that helps me kind of integrate some of the lessons into my own work. A book like this is amazing. Having a high res, I don't know if this is the size he works at or if it's even a blow up. It looks about working size. That looks about like the size of a crayon. So getting a sense of how big he works, what his techniques are with the pastels. This gives you a much better look at all of the equiluminant color combinations that he does that I've talked about. The real intense use of like contrast, the orange and the blues against each other, the reds and like the teals. There's so much going on in just this one image that you could learn from about technique with the material, technique with color, technique with composition, technique with which color do you put down first to get this kind of effect. There's so much there to be learned. This is put together by Francois Mollet, who's the Spiegelman's wife, the editor, handles all the cartoonists and stuff for the New Yorker. Obviously someone who is in control of the canon, basically, but someone who has that kind of sophistication and taste and knows a damn good artist. And, obviously chose Mattotti because he's a damn good artist. So a really nice portrait of her there by him. You get to see how he can be so with the crayon, but then so precise. Just some narrative stuff about his work and showing all of the covers. Then you really get to go through and get like a really nice full page, beautiful, perfect reproduction of the cover without any of the, any of the type added to it. You just get the artwork itself. This is a trilingual book, so you can order it whether you want to read in French, I don't know what this, English, or I don't know what the other one is here. The really nice thing about this for artists in terms of learning is that it also has a lot of sketch work like this. And Mattotti, in the art books I have of his and stuff, it's pretty obvious that he will work an image over many, many times in preparatory drawings ahead of time. So to see him even working out like the compositions early on just in pencil is really nice little addition. But to see he did like a full pencil one, like with like almost shading on it. This one's more of a line drawing. This one actually got inked up, it looks like, on top of it. There's no one way he's approaching solving any of these problems. And it's fun to see when there's one where he hits it right away, as far as I can tell by the presentation in the book, and one like this where it's like these are wildly different. These are much more similar, and you can follow the train of thought. This one, I really like the change here. This was probably, he sent it in and he got a comment back or something, I don't know. But in this one, even though the trick actually is funnier here, like the overlay trick of the camera being in front of the screen on this, like this is someone filming a situation where there's a movie being projected and probably an audience down somewhere over here. To have them also be at risk of being eaten by the dinosaur is kind of funny. But it is like when you see the choice, this is a worse drawing. It's cheesier. There's some real problems of like this looking way more three-dimensionally in the space. I know there's overlap here, but it just doesn't feel attached to the screen and flat in the same way. There's too much, I think there's too much directional mark making on it also that made it feel very round, whereas on this it's much flatter and he's doing less directional mark making, a little bit over here in the hair, but much flatter and feels more like it's on the screen, even though there is no real overlap with any of the major parts. So just those two drawings and this, there's so much to learn about composition. All you got to do is sit there and think, well, why did he choose to redo it? What were those choices? So a book full of those kinds of things. Beautiful, beautiful work, obviously, in the colors. Super well reproduced stuff. It's got some unpublished works, which is extra cool because you'll see that this is, a masterful artist turning in great work, and it got rejected. That's something else that's like really good for a young artist to learn. Like, he went through the whole process of finishing it, and he probably got paid for it. I would hope he did all the work that got approved, just never got published. It didn't fit. Something else happened in the news that was more important or whatever. So that's super cool. Extras, and then also a bunch of like spot illustrations that he's done for the beginnings of articles, things like that. So interior illustrations, love that one. God on the Brain. So it's much more than just the covers. I thought, oh, well, this is a huge book and it's going to have all these extras, which will show process stuff. But, that's not that many images, but whatever. I'm obsessed. And then to see all these extra ones is a real treat. So an absolute treat of a book. Yeah, I mean, go, please. This one, I think, is still in print. If you've been watching these Mattotti videos and really being bummed that most of this stuff is hard to get a hold of, this and some other stuff that's probably just in French that captures just his paintings and drawings are available. And everything I'm talking about in terms of color and all of that is as present in these, and probably more of his working process on display too. So I think you can still get the full Mattotti experience in terms of all of the factors that any artist might want to upload from looking at his work in these art books if you're having trouble finding the comics. And I don't think there's anything he's doing as a storyteller in comics that's like you need to see him as a comic artist. I think you could see him as only an illustrator to get the full benefit of what his learning from him could add to your stuff. That said, the comic work is amazing and beautiful, and yeah, like, of course, if you can find yourself copies. But this is also like, maybe it's time for some of this stuff to come back in print, because this stuff is hard to get a hold of, and it's stuff that people should be able to get a hold of easy, because it's as good as illustration, as good as art, as good as comics get. So get yourself some Mattotti, whatever you can. You'll be grateful for it. The Eisner-nominated The Strange Death of Alex Raymond by Dave Sim and myself. This is a gorgeously illustrated and designed book. Dave doing most of the illustration. Amazing compositions throughout. What Dave is doing is he's recording his obsession with the death of master cartoonist Alex Raymond behind the wheel of Stan Drake's car when they got into a car crash. The best description of the book that I've heard is that it's like understanding comics with pages like this, mixed with something like From Hell, when you get into the theories about what actually happened with the car crash. And then with Sean on production, it's just one of the most gorgeously printed books you could get a hold of.